We're just waiting for the... You okay? Are we live? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in this morning. Just so you're aware, we'll say it formally, that this has been filmed live on our YouTube channel, just so you're aware. So by being in the chamber, you're consenting to being filmed. Is that okay? That's wonderful. Thank you very much for that. So good morning and welcome. We're here today to consider the application to vary the premises licence for Brodys Bistro in Stroud High Street. So we have the applicants and also we have residents who would like to state their case as well. So what we got is a very formal process, but I try to be informal, if that makes sense. Okay, because I know it's not your normal day job, as Rachel quite rightly said. But what I'll try and do is take you through it as easy as I can, give you every opportunity to have your say, state your case, and what we will then do as a panel, we will then leave the room and then we will make up our decisions. Okay, so firstly, housekeeping, there's no plans for any fire alarms. So if the alarms do go off, we will have to evacuate, and we can evacuate to the left, to the right, and to the back of the room. Okay, and then we just go down the stairs and we'll wait outside until things are okay. If you can make sure your mobile phones are off or on stun, if you can, please, because then it just saves us being interrupted with phones going off. I think our panel's here, so we have no apologies, and I checked the list and we're all good to go as far as apologies concerned. And any member have a declaration of interest? We always make sure that we're not in a position where we have an interest, so we can't conduct this hearing in an unbiased way, so we're all okay with that. The panel, we've read all the hearing reports, so all the paperwork's been sent in from your good selves as far as your letters of objection and your application, so we're fully aware of that. What we're going to do is talk through that this morning, give you the opportunity to highlight any issues in it you want to, and then we can then, as I said, go away and make our decision. If you do speak, if you can just press the button, there's a center button, you'll see a little red light glow on the panel, and then hopefully you'll see that the microphone will light up, then we can hear you. Is that okay? That's why I got two with me. They keep me on track, I'll tell you. Okay, so if you're okay, any questions about the arrangements? Are you quite clear what we're going to be doing? If that's okay, then what we will do is I'll hand over to Rachel, who will present the hearing report. So thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Chair. So welcome everybody today. I'm Rachel Andrew. I'm the licensing manager here at Stroud District Council. So you've probably seen my name on the bottom of your emails. So we're here today to consider an application to vary the premises licence for Brodys Bistro Bar, which is in High Street, Stroud. Applicants are here today. There's Paige and Tracy and Matthew. And we've also got some representatives of local residents and local businesses. And you'll all have an opportunity to speak a little bit later and ask questions. So the current licence that was issued to Brodys was issued in November 2021. It covers the inside of the building only at the moment, and it permits sale of alcohol for consumption on the premises up till 11 o'clock in the evening. So the application, which you've hopefully all seen, it's in the application pack, but to summarise it, they are asking to extend the times for sale of alcohol until 11:30 in the evening, Sunday to Thursday, and then 1:30 in the morning on Fridays and Saturdays and bank holidays. And I must just point out that there is an error in the hearing pack where I've got those days slightly mixed, but what I've just said to you is the correct times, the correct days. The applicants have also asked for the opening hours to be then 30 minutes after those end of sale times to enable a drinking up period, which is quite a common practice. The application also proposes to add indoor sporting events, live and recorded music and late night refreshment with the same times as the proposed sale of alcohol. All those are for inside. And just to remind everybody that under the music exemptions, premises that have on sales of alcohol can automatically have music up to 11 o'clock at night. But because they're asking for hours after 11 o'clock at night, that would need to be included on the licence. And then the final part of the application is to extend the boundary of the licensed premises to include a small area outside the front where chairs and tables could be placed. And the purpose of this would be to allow alcohol to be consumed in this area. The applicant has said that this area would close for drinking alcohol outside at 9 o'clock. Now, as part of the consultation process, both the Environmental Protection Team and the police have had some discussions with the applicants. And the applicants have agreed to volunteer a number of conditions. The conditions that were agreed with the police include having door supervisors, no glass outside, and no admission after 11 o'clock at night. That would be apart from customers who are going out the front to smoke. And there are some conditions that have been agreed with the Environmental Protection Team, and they relate to mitigating noise outbreak, doors and windows shut when there's entertainment, and having a noise limiting device. So on the basis of that, there have not been any representations from the responsible authorities. However, we have had 7 representations against the applications from other parties. These are from the Stroud Town Council, who are not able to be here today, also residents and businesses in the vicinity, and I think some of the businesses are also landlords of flats in the vicinity. And the concerns, in summary, are about noise, antisocial behaviour, and those sorts of issues. And as the chair has said to you all, that the members on the panel, they have read all the written representations, including parties that are not here today. And everybody here today will have opportunity to explain their concerns a little bit more and ask and answer any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Rachel, I must apologise, I got it wrong already. I didn't introduce our panel, did I, to you? Which is very rude of me, and certainly our officers as well. So what I'll do before we get into the next stage, which is asking you guys to make your representations, just very quickly, I'll go around the table just so everybody knows who we all are. To my left is Nigel Spencer, who is a ward councillor for Rodber Parish, but also sits on the licensing panel and community services and licensing. John? I spoke through you, didn't I?
I'm John Jones. I represent the 7 ward parishes down by the river. I've been a district councillor for far too long. Some people would say I've been here since 2002, and I've been on licensing all the time I've been here.
Yes, you have indeed.
I'm Ros Hayden. I'm the legal officer to the panel today.
Hi, I'm Sophia, Licensing Officer for Stroud District Council.
And you've met Rachel, okay. And again, Matthew, do you want to say who you are? You're a business owner, yes?
Yeah, I'm Matthew Griffiths, I'm the business owner, yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And Paige?
I'm Paige Griffiths and I'm the licensee.
Right, okay.
I'm Tracy Griffiths and I'm one of the licensees as well.
Excellent.
I don't have a microphone, but luckily I have a loud voice. I'm Suni Fletcher and I live about a block down from Brodys.
Thank you.
I actually live on Bedford Street, as does my neighbour, but our properties face the high street. So if we open our living room windows, we get the noise from
Right,
Brodys.
okay, excellent.
Hello, I'm Miranda Haley. I'm also a resident of Stroud Town
Brilliant.
Centre.
And finally,
Hi, I'm Tristan Colon. I'm the owner of 13 High Street, which comprises the gift shop on the ground floor and the 2 flats that have just been referred to above.
right, okay, excellent. Thank you so much for that. Well, what we're now doing, now that we've done introductions, I'm back on track again. What I'll now do is call upon the residents, if you like, to make your representations to us. As we've already said, we've read your formal statements, but is there anything you want to add to that, or just to make us more aware of, then this is your opportunity to do so. Once you've done your representations, the panel may want to ask you some questions, and also I'll offer the opportunity for the applicants to ask questions also of your good selves, and then we will then go to the applicants to do the same. We'll go straight to you because we've got no other we've got no other authorities here to speak. Usually the police, the environmental health, if they've got concerns, they would be here and have an opportunity to raise their concerns. But as there's no one here, then I will go straight to you guys if that's okay. So does anyone like to lead? Tristan, would you like to start or? Yeah?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's appreciated. We've all given our submissions, which you've read. So I don't have a great deal to add to what I've said, but I would like to summarize it. And from communications I've had, perhaps make some slightly points with a slightly different emphasis. I'm here as a business representative. I don't live in Stroud anymore. I'm the owner of 13 High Street, which comprises Moonflower 2 gift shop and 2 small flats upstairs, which were put in 2013. I started retailing in Stroud in 1983, and we've seen a lot of changes in that time in Stroud. Obviously, one of the main changes that we've seen is the complete decimation of retail sales. The fact that we're still there is basically a miracle. But over the years, we've seen a lot of changes, but one of the most positive changes that we've seen in my whole time of living and working in Stroud is the advent of people beginning to live in the town centre. Now, for years, all through the 70s, I came here in 1974, the 80s and 90s, nobody lived in Stroud, and this led to a lot of problems with antisocial behaviour because there was no community there, and it was always whether it was a sort of overt policy, but there was always a lot of support from the district council and the town council. Let's get people living in Stroud, and then we can have a healthier town centre because people live there. So the irony of what's happening at the moment is that we've achieved that. People do live in the town. They live in the Upper High Street. They live in the Shambles. Adjacent to Boots, remember, there's quite a large assisted housing block. Above Penny Farthing, above Moonflower, above the adjacent shop. People live there. These are their homes. Not only that, but also, as I hear, there are further residential flats being developed above Mountain Warehouse and also on the junction of King Street and George Street. So we actually have now a community in the middle of Stroud. It's a very healthy thing, but the noise pollution and the horrendous antisocial behaviour that you have had reported to you is not being fabricated. This has been happening. My shop manager, Lisa Hooper, who can't be here today, she's my business partner, she's on holiday, but you will see from her submission that she has said that she has actually on occasions not felt safe to lock the shop up at 5:30 in the evening and has had to ring her husband up to come and get her. She's had to clean vomit off the step of the shop. We've had cigarette ends and a lot of disruptive behaviour. So obviously, as a business manager, I worry for our premises, which is vulnerable. But way over and above that, as someone who's worked so hard for so long to try and make the centre of Stroud a sort of decent place where people can live and work, we now have a proposal where people can sit on the road and drink alcohol at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And not only that, but perhaps, I mean, you will all be aware that what do people do if they sit outside a drinking establishment? It's very often because they smoke. So are we really saying that we want to have the no drinking zone in the centre of Stroud? This is a policy which has really benefited us in the middle of Stroud. This is a really good idea. I don't know when it came in, but it's a positive thing. So I personally see no benefit to the town in upending that policy and allowing people to drink on the high street when shops are open and families are walking up and down and so on. So that's about it from me. Let me just see if there's anything else. Yeah, I just did want to stress that the most worrying aspect of it is the antisocial behaviour. I mean, I have been in Stroud so many years, and I've seen a lot of antisocial behaviour. I mean, I was once in 1986, if you indulge me with a little anecdote, actually fitting out the big clothes shop in the middle of Stroud when there was a riot in the subscription rooms. I don't know if anybody remembers this. And the police went in there to break it up, to break up some gig there or make some arrests. And the whole lot just came out and rioted. And the riot police were literally being pushed up Kendrick Street, and missiles are being hurled everywhere. And one of our windows got broken. So what I'm saying is Stroud has moved on quite a bit. And we'd really like to see the centre of Stroud where decent people can work and live and have the, you know, reasonable amount of peace and quiet within the context of living in the town.
Yeah, thank you for that representation. Miranda, should we go to you next? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Yes, so I live above Moonflower 2, which is Tristram's, one of Tristram's shops, and am therefore renting an apartment from him. My only window faces out on the High Street, so I'm across from Card Zone and diagonally from Millets, where there are benches, which when you sit on the bench, you can actually see Brodys. So I'm not that far away, about 100 meters, 150 meters at max. At the moment, I am dreading Thursdays a little bit, Fridays and Saturdays especially, and sometimes Sundays, being in my own home. Especially with this weather, I have to have a window open because I have no other ventilation source. Not only am I confronted with music that I can actually literally sing along to because the doors are open at Brodys, my window's open, probably both because of the heat. I can't have a decent conversation in my own home. I can't even listen to a normal TV sound. I have to put headphones in because otherwise I literally just can't, even if the volume's all the way up, just can't hear it. At the moment, live music hasn't been happening for the last couple of weeks. I'm thankful for that because that makes, even though, you know, with recorded music, I can sing along, live music, I literally have to flee my house. It's unbearable. So that's concerning, you know, the noise levels of the music. But on top of that, you have the noise levels of customers, which use the street to verbalize whatever's going on in their head after a couple of drinks. Even if they're in Brodys, I can hear they're screaming, they're shouting, they're arguing, they're fighting, which they then take out onto the street and especially at the benches at Millets, continue with their, I'm sorry to put it this way, verbal diarrhea. It's come to a point that I've started to call the police about this antisocial behaviour, in my opinion, with the only result being I can't get through. After an hour of listening to this and hanging on a telephone and not being able to speak to someone, the only option I have is to hang up and go away. For me as a resident of the Stroud town, I feel this is unacceptable. And therefore, I do not agree with the variation of the application because that means prolonging the hours of distress for me, especially on the Thursday, Friday and Saturdays.
Thank you very much. Duly noted. Thank you. Sunny, have you anything additional to add? Sonia, apologies.
No, I don't have a microphone. That's fine. You'll be able to hear me. I have so much to say. It's difficult to know where to start. The previous two speakers have been so measured and so articulate. But as stated in my written objection, which was supported by fellow residents who couldn't be here today, our neighbours Hannah and Sam. life has been made miserable. I'm sure it's not their intention, but by Brodys. I've lived in my flat for 5 years, and you have to understand that we don't expect village levels of calm where we live. We live in the centre of town, you know. There are drunks, there are people going home after the pub's shut, there are skateboarders, and the sound, because of the acoustics, where you've got the two tall buildings and we're sort of in a valley in between, the sound of a skateboard coming at high velocity at night down the high street is like an aeroplane taking off. It's unbelievable. Did you hear it last night? Yeah. So we're used to all that. But Brodys have taken things, I mean, it's just not comparable. I've lived there 5 years, it's been happy, there is a community, we know our neighbours, we're lucky enough to have a roof terrace at the back of the flats, which Miranda and I have both exercised our gardening skills on. So it's, you know, it's a nice place to live. It always has been. Community, pleasant surroundings, hubbub of quite a pleasant kind on a Saturday when the farmers market is on, but it's relatively quiet at night. What happens now is that, as Miranda has said, we have loud music every weekend. There's no soundproofing that we're aware of. I mean, the main problem, I think, and I don't begrudge Brodys their commercial success, they're obviously doing extremely well. It's kind of to our detriment, but I just think they're in the wrong place. If you have a live music venue or a nightclub, such as other ones in Stroud, obviously you've got your dance floor or performance area or whatever. Then you've got a lobby, and then you've got the street. But because Brodys premises were designed as a shop, the door opens directly onto the street. So anytime somebody goes in or out, and certainly when the door is left open, as it is from time to time, the full volume of what's essentially a nightclub spills out onto the street and consequently into our flats. At the moment, it's particularly difficult because your only hope of screening out some of the noise is to shut the living room window, which faces onto the street. As Miranda said, even with the windows shut and with the television on, you can't drown it out. And apart from the volume, one of the worst things, particularly when there's live music, is the bass. Even if you have TV on, windows closed, I've got quite heavy curtains, so I close those to try to muffle the noise. The bass reverberation just makes the place shake. My next door neighbour, Hannah, tells me that she's got a mirror hung on the wall and it literally bounces on the wall with the bass vibration. You know about the antisocial behaviour. It's people who've had a lot to drink and are in high spirits. I know it's not malicious by and large. You know, it's men with deep voices bellowing at each other. It's women shrieking with laughter. It's screaming. Sometimes it's crowds singing along with a well-known 80s hit or whatever. I should add, by the way, that I can't escape any of this by going out onto our roof terrace because the sound comes, you know, it's there as well. So there's literally no escape from it. I've managed to visit friends for 4 out of the last 5 weekends, so that's helped me to cling on to my sanity. But I don't think I should be driven out of my home every Friday and Saturday at least. One of the worst things about it is that as the time approaches for the worst of the noise to kick off, which is, you know, like it's mainly from 8 till midnight Fridays and Saturdays, one becomes anxious. Yeah. It's like it's going to start. It's going to start. It's going to kick off. It's going to kick off. And as soon as it starts, you feel angry, frustrated. You rehearse arguments in your mind, things that you would want to say to the proprietors, not abusive things, just do you know how wretched our existence is due to your activities? I think I've got through most of what I wanted to say. As I say, live music is the worst. One of my neighbours says that there's karaoke and that's the worst, but I've no idea whether there is karaoke. Possibly he's confusing the live performances with karaoke. I have a huge concern that Brodys already go way past their supposed closing time of 11 o'clock. This has been kind of creeping on and on over the last weeks and months. So it's not uncommon for the music still to be going after midnight. On one Saturday, I was so sick of the bass in particular that I got dressed and went down to the premises, spoke to the security guard who was on the door. This was at midnight. The lights were on, but there were still people inside. The music was playing and the door was open. So I asked him to close the door because we'd been listening to this wretched bass for the last 3+ hours. And he said, I'll go and have a word with the owners, after which it was duly switched off. But I emphasise that was at 12:15 on a supposed 11 o'clock finish. So if they're licensed till 1 in the morning, what time is the noise going to finish? Lastly, well, I mean, the idea of people drinking outside in the streets, just beyond a joke. Like I say, these are not vicious people, but the Brodys applied for a license as a bistro wine bar. And I think that term gives you the idea that it's, a pleasant place for cocktails of an evening. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a very rowdy nighttime venue where people congregate because they know that they're going to have a no holds barred, let your hair down, good shouty sing along, a bit like a football crowd, get well pissed, and shout and carry on. Now that's absolutely fine, but not in a residential area. The place for somewhere like that is somewhere where that people don't live. And most nightclubs, which is what Brodys seems to operate as and is going even more towards with an application for a late license, are not situated somewhere like the High Street in premises that are not designed for the job. Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and you must forgive me. But I imagine that all of you, including the proprietors, probably don't live in the centre of Stroud. You probably live on a suburban street with front garden, whatever. So I ask you to imagine that your neighbour a few doors down has all their mates round for a noisy barbecue party or whatever that continues late into the night, with loud amplified music so that you can't carry on your normal home life. His friends are outside in the front garden, screaming, shouting. The men think it's hilarious, and this is, well, I'm sorry, this is not the squeamish, but the men think it's hilarious to carry on a routine of shout.
That's when we kick out, like, we've kicked out at 11, but we've got to get all of our stuff and clean. By the time I go home, you can start to see people start to trail up the road. I think because now they're all open and we opened at that time, we get a lot of the blame for a lot of the music and a lot of the antisocial behaviour. But like Matt just said, we've never had the police called. We spoke to environmental health many times over the last 6 weeks. They've agreed that we've done everything. We've jumped through every hole they've told us to do. We've got the CAIA staff. We've agreed to a music decibel automatic one that they will set up themselves. We pay for, they set it up. It can't go over that limit. The doors, there was an incident. We did have a report. I did speak to the environmental health officer. It was a genuine accident. A sign was left by the door. Someone had propped the door open. I hadn't noticed it. I did apologise. It shouldn't have been left open. However, now our SIA staff have been told the doors are to remain closed. People outside smoking have been told they have got to remain quiet. Yeah, I don't think the only evening we've had open late was when we were granted a late license for the Queen's Jubilee, which was, we did have a band in. I can't quite remember the band's name. They were really bassy, and we did ask them to leave because I understand they were too loud for our premises. Yeah, that's all I've really got to say on that matter.
Thank you, Paige. Does anybody else in the panel want to make any comments, or you're happy to take questions from us first, and then we'll ask the residents to ask some questions? Is that okay? So, John, any questions for the applicant?
I've got 2 or 3, yeah. What's the capacity of your premises? You've obviously got a sorry? 110. Okay, thank you. Right. You volunteered conditions that the windows and doors will remain closed?
Yes. After 7 o'clock.
After 7 o'clock, yeah, okay.
We don't have any music at all in the week. We don't start any music till 5:30 until the optician shuts next door.
Yeah, okay. But do you have any type or means of keeping the indoors premises cool? You know, I'm thinking of this weather. You've got aircon. Lovely. Okay. When people go in and out, smoke, which they do, as we all know, do you have any automatic door closures on your doors?
It's not automatic.
Can you just press your button so that everybody can hear when you speak?
As soon as you open it, it just shuts behind you.
Right.
It won't stay open.
Yeah, it's
Closes
something like that one down there.
just closes behind you.
It opens and then it closes.
It's got the things on the top of the door.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And so some of the voluntary conditions you've agreed so far for this hearing, they're in action already.
Yeah. We've got a decibel meter. The door staff we have every Friday and Saturdays when we play the music, they won't let anybody in or out.
Yeah.
But, you know, they stand outside all the time, so they keep them. If there's any noise, they'll keep it down.
Okay.
They keep the door shut.
Yeah. And just finally, from me at any rate, you mentioned indoor sporting events. Is that sort of audiences for international football?
No, really. We've only got BT Sports. We're just not so much sporting. I was thinking about doing some quiz nights and stuff in the week because Monday to Thursday it's dead.
Yeah.
So we've got a darts team. We don't play usually music on a Thursday now because we've got 2 darts teams from one of the other pubs that play there, Brodys it's called now. So you have to keep that quiet. But yeah, it's just good.
Okay, so
doing a quiz night, things like that. But we don't do any karaoke or anything like that. We've only got 2 speakers in the building, and our mirrors don't shake on the wall.
okay, thank you.
We only have household speakers in our building. They are literally suitable for a house, so they're not overly loud, and they only have a top decibel of 50.
But I agree, we did have 2.
We did have some bands that were extremely loud.
We did find out they were too big and loud for our premises, so we're not going to do that anymore, having the bands. If anything, we have an acoustic guitarist, singer that may come on a Saturday only. Otherwise, it's just the speakers.
But we've cut that down to once a month now. We don't have them every Saturday no more.
I'm sure I should be pulled up if I'm overstepping here, but there is an application for the outside pavement on this hearing.
Yeah.
No?
Oh, sorry, extension, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Section of drink outside.
Um,
yeah.
According to the map you supplied, is that going to be taking up all of the pavement out to the road?
On the side wall, we've got, I think, a 1.6 metre recess as a wall. The other building next to it comes out. So that's our front door there, and there's a wall there.
Yeah.
And we just do it diagonally, sort of thing, about a metre, just to get two little tables there.
It's not so much for alcohol. It's more because in the daytime we are
Just
food.
coffees and stuff.
So it's
Night time,
nice
we
for
could take it
older
in.
people. They come in for coffees. It's nice that they can sit outside. That's all that's really for.
People walk their dogs and
Yeah.
do things.
Because alcohol's not really a thing we want to do out there, because people won't want to drink in plastic glasses. So,
It's more for the coffee,
It's
the
more
tea
for the
cake,
daytime.
that sort of
Yeah.
thing that we sell a
Yeah.
lot of in the day for people to sit
but,
outside.
I mean, if you used to put a restriction on the time of that, that's fine by us. It's just the daytime, really.
Yeah, I see. But according to the map, it looks as though it's coming out to the edge, the current path, edging stones on the side of the road. That's what I can't get my head around.
Yeah, you got the roads there.
Where the red line is, have you got,
Yeah, there is paving stones, but we're not actually in the road. We're set back because we're recessed in the buildings.
We're about that far from the road is where we want our tables. We could go for about that far. However, you can't physically walk up that pathway anyway because the recess of Boots
We
building
walk
stops
into the
you.
brick wall.
You walk into a brick wall. So we're only trying to use the front out of our.
so you wouldn't stop people from
No, they
using
can't
the
walk.
footpath and
No, no.
having to
They
step
can't walk
out?
back.
I know High Street is pedestrianised,
Yeah,
but there are vehicles in there
Yeah.
from time to time,
yeah.
and we don't want people having to step out into the road to get
No,
past your
100%. There is
tables
a
and chairs.
pathway on the opposite side of the road, but this pathway you physically can't walk any further than our front door anyway because the brick wall stops there, the path stops there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Nigel, have you any questions?
No, I think they've all been asked, actually.
Thank you. Yeah, just the odd one for me. Smoking, obviously you've only got the front of the building. You haven't got any rear access where smokers could be, or,
We have got a rear.
yeah, so, but you
It's,
use the front for the smokers?
At the moment, we're using the front. However, we were just discussing prior to this, if it was that much of a big issue that we do have parking at the back of our unit, like a loading bay. We could almost section a slight bit of that off if needs be and have a small smoking area at the back there,
Yeah, okay,
which wouldn't, which goes onto the car park.
right. Okay, good, yes, that makes sense,
Yeah.
okay. And you say you've got the noise measuring equipment already installed?
We've got the manual one installed at the
But-
moment.
But we'll wait for the one, the
And
set
yeah,
one.
I spoke to the environmental health. He said sort of just wait until we have this hearing. If all goes ahead, because they cost about £600. We'll order it. It'll come in 2 days. They're coming, then plug it in with their guys and do it that way.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Lee. No, I think, John, your question was very good. I've got lots of things written down for us to consider. So what I will do now is I'll ask the residents, if you have any questions, not statements, just questions to the applicants. And then what we will then do is sum up, and then we will go and make our decision. So if you have any questions, now's your opportunity to ask them. Yes, Tristan, if you'd like to ask a question first.
Yeah, it's about the soundproofing. So presumably when you originally took it over from Four Boys, you had to do renovations and stuff like that. So normally, if you have to do that, the SDC building regs are involved, and soundproofing is a really big deal. You know, obviously in this case, it seems to me that slipped through the cracks because there wasn't really an issue for sound. Did you actually install soundproofing?
Is not essential in any nightclub. The prime example is the Queen Vic. They're allowed a late license, which is until very late. Soundproofing is not really an essential thing. However, I do know that.
Well, I'd like to make a point that I mean, I'm questioning that because sound regulation is a thing. I mean, you know, when I put the 2 flats in above the shop, the stringency of the sound proofing was, I think, the single most expensive thing we had to do. If we're really saying that you can play loud music in presumably there's some sort of change of use thing if you're changing use from a retail unit to somewhere that's going to have entertainment.
That would have been picked up on the planning application.
But it doesn't appear that it has been.
It's difficult for us to make a decision on that today. But planning, when the business owner applied for change of use, I'm assuming you had to. It's a lot simpler now, so that would be a planning issue. Okay, we can't legislate for soundproofing or make a decision based on soundproofing or non-soundproofing. It would be, yes, it would be implied. But we are licensing here and not a planning authority, so we have to be very careful. We don't stray into the other one. All right. Yeah, but we need to determine what we're talking about today. All right, so the question has been answered. So is there another question?
Yes, I have one. I'm sorry, Miranda. If your proposed outdoor seating is for nice old biddies having a cup of tea and a bun in the afternoon, why have you asked for it to be there till 9 p.m?
It'd be nice in the summer when it's still nice and sunny at 9 p.m. Yeah, and we do get a lot of old guys in our shop. We have our old customer when he's 80, he's staying out with us till 9 o'clock. It'd be nice for him to be able to sit outside. Why? The Curio Lounge is allowed. No one moans about that. The Queen Vic has an outdoor seating area.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just so people can sit outside. Like we said, if we serve outside alcohol, it's plastic glasses. None of our customers are interested in plastic glasses. It is more or less for coffee. I only said 9 o'clock because of the summer, but like my dad said, we would be more than happy with 7 o'clock. It's not really an issue for us.
On the weekend, we would have to take it by 7 anyway because of dormant.
Yeah.
So we would be able to have it.
Also, I'm sorry, one last thing. I would call it to your attention that the proprietor just spoke of nightclubs, and I think that's pertinent.
My mic wouldn't work. Okay. Are there any more questions? Yes, Randy, you have a question. Yeah.
One question. Are you a bistro cafe or are you a nightclub?
We're a bistro bar. We sell food all day. We can sell alcohol and food at night.
Okay.
We have tables.
Thank you. Okay. Any more questions from the panel? So we're okay with questions. Okay. What we'll now go to the next stage of the hearing, and that will be, I've been covered up my piece of paper to make sure I do it in the right order. What we'll now do is we'll ask you if one of you would just like to sum up on anything you've said so that we can consider that. We don't want to get into another full debate, but if one of you could sum up, then we will take that on board. I will then offer you the opportunity to sum up. And then what we will do as a panel, we will then adjourn and we will go away and we will make our decision. Okay? So if the applicants, if you'd like to sum up.
Okay, so for the 13 High Street Brigade here, in my submission, I really stressed 2 points. One is noise and the other is antisocial behaviour, okay? And over and above that, we're looking at the character and the quality of the centre of Stroud. What do we want it to be? And is it a place where it is okay for people to live, decent people on modest incomes in rental accommodation, to live and work? Is that what we want? Or do we want somewhere where that isn't possible or desirable? And that's really what this application hinges on, in our view. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. And the applicants, please.
So this is just a quick sum up.
Just a sum up, yeah. If there's anything you want to add, or just to sum up your...
I would just like to say, obviously, going forward, we are having the decibel monitor put in. We have the closed door policy at the moment. Well, will be if we get accepted 11 p.m. Before 11 p.m, we do lose a lot of trade to the Queen Vic. Obviously, they're the only place open. So having these opening hours would be a great benefit to us because obviously we're losing a lot of money at the moment. The seating area outside, we're happy, obviously, with any times. It's just really so that we can have people outside in the nice sunny days. Antisocial behaviour, again, I think that's not just from us because we've never had a police report. We've had no trouble. We have security on for the last 3-4 months. So we don't have any trouble. Yeah, so I just want to sum up that it's not, we do, actually, I did have a complaint not a complaint, actually. A friend of ours has got a flat. They bought 2 just behind us on Fawkes car park. They texted us not long ago about 1 in the morning saying, great music, guys. It wasn't us, it was a Greyhound. So I do think a lot of the time we do get a lot of the complaints when it's the Queen Vic or it's the Curio or even the sub rooms. I mean, they kick out at 2 in the morning onto our car park, which makes everyone think it's still us. It's not us, it's them. They kick out in the middle of the night. They all park in our premises. So we do get a lot of the blame for a lot of the music. It isn't us. We do have CCTV 365 days of the year, every hour. We can show when we kick out. You can see everything on our CCTV. The police have accessed it recently for something that happened on the street. They tried to see something. So it is there if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning. I used the word adjourn. I apologise. We will retire to make our decisions. Once our decision is made, then you will be contacted by email within so many days, Rachel. Do you just want to do the formal bit for me?
Yes, please. So yes, once the panel make their decision, they do have 5 days. So they may make their decision today or they may not. But as soon as we get it and it's finalised, we'll email it through to everybody, and then we'll give you notification, because there is a right of appeal process as well of a decision made by this panel. There was something else I just wanted to add, if that's all right.
Of course.
Chair. I was just going to mention about that outside area, because if that outside area for use will also need what we call a pavement licence as well, which I know that the applicant is aware of. And say they didn't have alcohol out there, they would still be entitled to apply for a pavement licence for the soft drinks and food and drink. It is only the alcohol that side of it that you're considering today within this application. But when a pavement licence application is submitted, if it's submitted, that will be just to consider consuming of any food and drinks out there and placing tables and chairs. It goes through a different consultation process. Residents do get consulted on, as well as the various agencies such as highways, etc. And then we would consider that in that context. Thank you, Chair.
Right, okay. Well, can I thank you all very much for your time this morning and coming in and making your representations. And, you know, I promise you we will give everything you've said due consideration, and hopefully we can come up with a decision which suits all parties. So thank